Hey, good morning. I was just continuing to study Hebrews, and I ran onto a couple of actually a pretty neat leadership principle from Hebrews chapter 5, and it's in Hebrews chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. So let me read it, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about it, and then just kind of hop off. Not a very long video, so I feel like my videos are getting really long here lately. But anyways, Hebrews 5, 1 and 2 says, "For every high priest taken from among men is appointed on behalf of men in things pertaining to God, in order to offer both gifts and sacrifices for sins. He can deal gently with the ignorant and misguided, since he himself is also beset with weakness." Um, so there's a lot of things in Hebrews chapter 5 that you can talk about there, but um, just something struck me about that as I thought about the leadership of one person over another, and actually a person's leadership of himself, my leadership of myself. Um, so this starts getting into the basis of qualifications for a human priest, right? So this human priest is selected from among human beings, and so since the human priest is in fact human, he's supposedly able to represent humans to God, presenting the case to God, for all things that are matters pertaining to the Lord. So the word ignorant there is interesting because it carries with it, the word is anoeo, and it carries a sense of having no knowledge. So if somebody's ignorant of something, you really didn't know. So if I go do something and I did it wrong, and I find out later I should have done it a different way. Like maybe you're cooking in the kitchen and you didn't know a certain spice was going to be so strong right after you cooked it. Maybe you use less of it later, but you were ignorant of how that would work or how it would taste later. So some people can be ignorant, we just don't know, right? And then the other word there, ignorant and misguided. Misguided means to cause to go astray. The word is planao, causing somebody to go astray, being led astray. So if I'm ignorant, I don't know. If I'm misguided, I have followed improperly. So those words are interesting because sometimes I find that we follow poorly. I have in my life followed poorly. I have followed ignorantly. I have followed and gotten on a bandwagon and found out a little bit later on that the bandwagon I was on was in fact wrong. I have been on the wrong side of arguments before. So this guy, this leader, right, who's able to lead men, he's appointed over, right? So he's put in a place of authority over men, not to tell them what to do, but to be able to provide leadership and provide guidance. Now here's the reason, and this is the word I was kind of drawn to, is because he is beset himself with weakness. Okay, so I'm kind of drawn to that word beset there because it carries a sense of lying about or being encircled. If I'm beset by weakness, I'm encircled with weakness. So the human high priest is appointed over men, which means he's set in this place of administration, right, or supervision. He's able to fulfill that duty explicitly because he's surrounded by his own weakness. Now here's the thing that occurs to me. If you're surrounded by your weakness, do you realize you're surrounded by your weakness? If you're surrounded by your weakness, do you acknowledge your weakness? So if you're calling yourself a leader of men, will you take an inventory of yourself? Will I take an inventory of myself and realize that there are places where I need growth? Do I allow other people to provide input into my life and heart, or do I think I've got it all covered? My weaknesses aren't really weaknesses. So since this human high priest is beset or encircled with his own weaknesses and acknowledges those imperfections, he's able to have some compassion, hopefully, realizing that if I realized that my struggles weren't necessarily always easy, maybe my anxiety or my whatever issue I had from my weaknesses, maybe I realized that the struggle wasn't easy. Maybe let me form a thought here. maybe when I realized my struggles were very real, I realized other people's struggles were very real as well. So it's important that as leaders we have that compassion. So as a pastor, I have weaknesses just like everybody else, and I have to acknowledge those. All you have to do is just look around. You know, pastors do have weaknesses. Look around the internet. You'll find pastors who have made some pretty bad errors in judgment and kind of fallen by the wayside, you know. Not that they can't be redeemed, but it happens even to the best of us. But the moment I say that it won't happen to me, the moment I say, you know, I'll never have an affair on my wife, is the moment that I admit that I'm not a man, that I'm not a human, right? It's the moment, or that's the moment that I say that. It's the moment that I say I'm not weak in certain ways, right? And it means that I open myself up to that kind of behavior. The moment I say it won't happen is the moment I sign my own ministerial death warrant, in fact, because I'm not really fit to be a spiritual leader by any stretch of the imagination, but maybe not even really to give somebody advice on stuff, right? It also means I'm not capable. I'm just not capable of really being a very good leader. The moment that I start looking at my weakness and playing them down rather than facing them head on is the day I stop learning and growing. I have to face my weakness and address it. It's okay to have a weakness. It's not a big deal. It's what do you do with it? You know, the moment that I stop taking counsel from an outside source that'll cause me to do better is just the death of leadership. The death of humility is the death of leadership. So I am beset with weakness. I am beset with anger and frustration. I am beset with anxiety, you know. And my question to myself is, what am I following? Who am I following? Am I following sources of leadership that guide me that also admit their own weaknesses? Now, this can apply to you whether you're in a spiritual situation, spiritual leadership, finding leadership and mentorship at your job. Do our national leaders admit their own weaknesses, or do they understand they are beset with weaknesses just like everybody else? Or do they just lay aside humility for pride and say that we have all the answers and you need to just do what we say? So, number one, get in the habit of taking a self-inventory. You know, where am I? What do I need? What do I need in order to grow? Is it a physical activity? Do I need to exercise? Do I need to grow myself spiritually? Do I need to read a book? Do I need to study a new skill, right? Where am I weak? Acknowledge my weakness. Am I impatient? Am I angry? Well, what do you need to do to fix that or to address that or to start growing? And when you start addressing that, are you going to a source that is also humble enough, a person or a website or a book or a spiritual leader or whatever, that also says, you know, I'm not perfect, but I've been down this road and I think I can help you and give you a little advice. So be humble and admit weakness and address it, but also find sources that are humble enough to address their own weaknesses and follow those sources because they can help you through. One of the things I appreciate, I'm in this thing called the Warrior Poet Society Network. I was watching some videos, and this guy John Lovell, he's a really just I think he's a great leader, but they're trying to hire instructors, and one of the things that they have that is a qualification is that they have really been through some fire. You know, they've been in gunfights and they've been exposed to combat and things like that. So they know what their weaknesses are. It's not about finding strong people for John Lovell. It's about finding people who have explored their own weaknesses. I think that's what I think he does, and that's what he wants to provide other people with is leaders and teachers who can take the experiences from their own weaknesses and pass that on. Spiritually, that's what I want to do. I want to look at my own life, and I want to take my own weaknesses and failures. How did I recover from them? How did I admit my failure, recover from the failure, and move forward humbly? So Take that with a grain of salt. Do with it what you want. But I hope you have an awesome, awesome day. And I love you, and I'll catch you on the next one.